Why did I decide to stay in Ukraine during the full-scale invasion with my children? This is something that we get asked all the time, and I'm going to explain it to you in this video. If you're interested in more about life in Ukraine as a Brit, then don't forget to subscribe, like, any questions, add a comment. So, I always get asked this, like, why are you still here? Why don't you leave? It would be safer to England, just go back to England. Obviously, there is a war going on in Ukraine right now, and that is where we live. But it's not as simple as people think, like, just leave. For one, my husband was not able to leave the country. He is Ukrainian. So if we had left, it would have meant leaving just me, and when the war started, I only had one child. So it would have meant leaving our home, our family, my husband, my daughter's father, and it meant she would have to grow up or at least spend a few years in a country separated from her dad. And I know there is a lot of Ukrainians that have had to do that, and they haven't had a choice. And huge respect to all of those mums out there that are keeping the family going while they are away from their husbands or from their partners. Huge respect. We were lucky that we live quite far from the front lines. We live right on the border to Romania. So the danger is still there. Of course, it is a war. We do get drone attacks. We have had drones going over our house, etc. But it's not as serious. It's not like a daily. Well, it's kind of daily, but anyway, it's not as serious as other places. It's not as dangerous as other places in Ukraine. Ukraine is a huge country. But yeah, the other thing is, people say, why didn't you leave? If we had left, I've now got 3 children. Those 2 children were born during the war, and obviously if we'd had to live somewhere away from my husband, we wouldn't have even had those children. So definitely I don't regret the decision. People always also ask me about the emotional and like psychological stress on children. Isn't it better to keep them away? But I think having to move and to live away from my daughter's father at such a young age also would have been very traumatic, probably more traumatic than staying together as a family. They have been affected by the drone attacks. They're very scared of loud noises. Very scared of thunderstorms because it's a similar sound as drone attacks. So unfortunately, yes, children are affected, but being in your own house, it creates like this false sense of security. People always wonder, like, why don't people just leave? And there's Ukrainians that have stayed in their houses. There's something about, you think it's not probably a real thing, but psychologically you feel like your house is the safest place to be home, especially when there's so much unknown going on. Just the thought of leaving with your young kids and just going to the border, and you don't know, and I know a lot of people, they've had to do that, but it is incredibly scary. And there's something inside you, even though you know it's not safe to stay home, it's a really big, difficult decision to make to leave. So huge respect to everyone who has had to do that. It's a very sad situation, but it is what it is. But we don't regret living here, even during the war. We've managed to keep a sense of normalcy for the children, which we're really thankful for. We're really thankful that where we live hasn't been so strongly affected compared to other places in Ukraine. So we're very lucky. We love living here, and we haven't got any plans to live anywhere else at the moment. So as long as it's relatively safe and we're able to, then we will stay here. If you want to learn more about living in Ukraine or my perspective as a Brit living in Ukraine, don't forget to subscribe.